Now, if your website isn't generating a steady flow of new leads and sales and customers each and every single day, then you need to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to give you a scorecard that will enable you to score your website against the 10-point conversion audit that we put together here at Entrepreneur Circle, and you'll discover as part of that then the easy fixes that you can apply to start getting more visitors turning into buyers on your site. Now, this is an excerpt from an event that we did called Website Wizardry. It was recorded in our studio here at Entrepreneur Circle headquarters in the heart of the UK in Birmingham. It went out live, it was streamed out to our many thousands of UK members. They all got a lot from it, so much so it's one of our most popular resources, and I'm sharing it with you today. So hopefully you'll find this both useful and enjoyable. This is the audit here, and we'll go through the detail in a moment or two. Now, this is something that we've created. I created this with my team, and we sat down and looked at all the elements that make the biggest difference to websites when it comes to converting. You'll notice that none of these are technical things. We will cover the technical stuff this afternoon, but none of this is technical here. And broadly speaking, we've got these 10 elements. So what's above the fold? Video, images, main menu, personality, call to action, body, trust, and then across the top, what there is for each of the kind of headings down the left hand side here, you're going to score points, and so you'll either score for each of the 10 things. You'll either score 0 points, 5 points if you're in the middle column, or 10 points. And the audit, you need to go systematically through this form, looking at the site that you are paying attention to. It might be your own site, might be somebody else's, which what we'd definitely like you to do that this morning. It'd be really helpful if you spend 10 minutes looking at someone else's site and auditing it for them. That will be really helpful. And what you get every time you audit someone else's website, they will audit yours. So you start to get genuine, independent, third-party perspective on how your website is being seen by others, which is way more useful than how you see it, because of course you have the curse of knowledge, and they don't have that, and therefore their feedback will be very valuable for you. It's nothing to get defensive about. Doesn't matter what they say, you just need to soak it up as a learn. It's good feedback when it comes to making your site more effective as a conversion tool. This whole event is about your conversion and your results. And just because you know what something is meant to do or meant to say, or this is how it's meant to be understood, well, if it's not being seen that way by the visitors that are coming to your site, then that will be impacting in a negative way the conversion and the results that you get from your site. So getting this independent third-party perspective is really important, and we're going to give everybody on the event the opportunity to do that using the mirror, which we did yesterday. We'll open it up again this morning. I'll explain how it works. If you missed yesterday just joining us, gosh, it's going to be you're joining this kind of wild ride halfway through, but we're going to go through. I want to make sure you all understand now. This will be quite important. I'll go through it at a reasonable pace, but we're going to look at each of the elements on the checklist. So the first piece here is the above the fold bit. So if we look at above the fold on a desktop, obviously it's very different to what it is on a mobile, and we'll talk about mobile this afternoon, but on the basis that most people are watching this on a laptop or a desktop, there's very few watching it on phones or tablets, but above the fold is what you see when you go to the website, and to be excellent, if we start down here, to be excellent, then the headline and the subheadline that are above the fold, i.e. what you see when you first go to the page, will clearly answer the 4 critical questions. So it should be really clear who this is for, what they do, why should I care, and what now. And if there are answers to those 4 questions above the fold when you land on the site, then you're ticking these boxes here, and the site would score 10 points for above the fold. If only 1 or 2 of these are here, perhaps are here, it's got engaging copy, but visitors have to scroll or click around to fully understand the answer. So it's a good looking site, the words are nice, it's not a dead loss, but actually these 4 questions are not answered above the fold, then it would be a need improvement, it would score 5 points. Or if you're the site, if the copy is vague, if there's no answers to the 4 critical questions, or if in particular, if above the fold is dominated by that single large image, or even worse, the kind of softly moving video that makes the business owner think they've got a beautiful looking website, but absolutely fucks over their conversion, then you would score it 0 points, because that's what this is all about. It's all about conversion. This ain't a beauty parade. This is about conversion. And no evidence exists anywhere ever to show that having full screen big pictures above the fold helps your site convert more. You can measure and track it, of course, but you'll find that it won't work. So that's what we got there. The element's pretty clear really above the fold, all hinging on the 4 critical questions that we talked about yesterday. Now the next one down is video, and again to some extent these are almost in, they're not order of importance, but these top 2 certainly matter a great deal. So you would score excellent for video if it has an engaging human video. In other words, it's people, it's not a doodly, scribbly animated video. This actually got real people, because people buy people. Nothing wrong with the doodly, scribbled videos or the animated videos, but they're just not as good as real human videos. So to score excellent here, you'd have an engaging human video that would be positioned prominently, wouldn't be teeny tiny, wouldn't be embarrassingly slid in at the last minute as some of them are. It would be prominently displayed. You saw yesterday on the Spotlight page, for instance, broadly speaking, above the fold, the video is taking up half the width of the screen there, and the video answers the 4 critical questions. If it needs improvement, there's a video there, but either it's not prominent, or it's not human, or it's old or out of date, or it doesn't answer the 4 critical questions. So at least they're embracing video, but it needs improvement. It's not as good as it could be, and it would score 0 points if there's no video obvious in that first top half of the website. So you start to get a score for video. Then we look at the images, and images do matter. They're not the most important element in a website. The words are, but images can absolutely help enhance it. And we saw some great examples yesterday when we went through on those 7 key questions, the 7-second test in there. So to score excellent on images, you'll want to be using real images throughout, so there won't be any no obvious stock photos, you know, the sort of thing, the mindless when you use a picture that just shows that you've got no creative juices whatsoever, that your creative brain cells were removed by lobotomy at the point at which you started to create your website, because all I can do is use obvious stock images the same as everyone else uses in my industry, and of course what you're repelling people. So obvious stock photos are absolute no-no. Real images throughout. The third box on there on the excellent piece here would be the images obviously support the copy. So in other words, they're not just randomly placed, they do tie in to what's been written about, and ideally the images would humanize the business. They'll show real people, and it's kind of obvious. You know when you see images that are real, as opposed to they've been shot by, for stock purposes by models and actors and professional photographers, because you can just tell when it's the real business or not, when it's been humanized. And the pictures, if the pictures demonstrate the after of your target market, you've got images on your website that show customers benefiting, real customers benefiting from what you do. That can be a really great thing to do. So you need to get quite a few ticks in there to score as excellent. Need improvement, there would be no real images or just a few real images, and no real or few images of real customers or staff. So there's not much happening down there. 0 points is where you've got stock images throughout the site or dominant, or not many images at all because your pages are very text heavy, or else they're crude or unprofessional or out of date. You do see that sometimes. People still use like very rudimentary clip art on their website, for instance, and that is a no-no down there. It's going to impact your conversion, which is why it scores a 0. And again, what we're trying to do here, I do recognise that, I mean, it was quite a challenging little task to do this, but I knew that we had to have a good crack at this because people need kind of checklists. We do need to get into the detail, into the grains and granules of your website. But I do recognise that there'll be a degree of kind of artistic interpretation required on some of this stuff. I do recognise that. But as a broad template to work with, it's actually pretty robust, is this. We've tested it here on a number of sites, and I'm giving you a pretty good guide here by which to work from. The only purpose to do this, there's no prizes for how many you score in the audit, other than if you do this honestly and accurately, and if you get other people to do it honestly and accurately on your site, people that understand what they're talking about because they've been through this session with us now, then what you're going to get is feedback that will enable you to make changes that will increase and improve your conversion. That's what everything is all about. So a few questions coming in here then. So right, let's have a look here. What's this? I don't understand that top question because I've not talked about logo in the left yet, have I? Where does it say that? Help me out here. Is this for the whole website or just the home page? Okay, listen, the principles apply across the whole website. The starting point for the audit would be a good place to start, would be the home page, because that's where people will go when they check you out. But a lot of the principles here, what we just talked about on video, for instance, and on images, and indeed to some extent above the fold, is going to apply across the whole site. Are illustrations okay versus images and photos? Yes, they're better than nothing as long as they are relevant and clear. And sometimes I do get the point that illustrations can communicate much more clearly than a photograph could, so I completely get that. But don't put illustrations up when you should have real pictures of real people there. Don't hide behind the anonymity of an illustration when you should be using people. So you just need to be, there's a judgment call to be made there. So okay, let's have a look then now at the main menu piece. Yeah, this is one. Yeah, that's right. So, okay. So the main menu is the bit. This is the bit that goes normally across the. Excuse me, is the bit that goes across the top of your website, and on most sites that are well designed it will kind of stay there when the site scrolls as well, so we've always got access to the main menu. So with the main menu, the company logo in the top left, that has become the kind of established norm that's where you find the company logo in the top left hand side, and it will harm your conversion if you put it somewhere else. And the reason for that is that people know that logo in the top left, what that really is a link back to your home page. And if people can't find the link back to the home page because your logo isn't there or you've put it somewhere else, then they'll end up leaving your site and your conversion will diminish. It's the kind of anchor point. It's become very well established now, and so you will be playing by kind of best principles. This isn't a battle you need to win. You can go with the flow on this because there's no downside to it. Put your logo in the top left because that's where people expect to find it, and just make sure that your logo in your top left is in actual fact a link, they click it, that takes them back to your home page. Your navigation needs to be limited to what we call the bare essentials. It is not the place in your main navigation bar to have a link to every single page on your site. You've got to come at this from the customer's perspective. When they come on this page, what is it that they need to see? Now, you can put a link to like every page on your site in your footer. We'll come on to that in a little while, but the main navigation bar needs to look clean, it needs to be easy to understand, needs to be concise, and it needs to have the customer at its heart when you're pulling it together. So that's why the navigation is limited to bare essentials. And as you'll see here, if I go into the needs improvement column, if it's got some elements in there that are non-essential, then you'll start to slide down the score bar here. The phone number will be clearly visible in your main menu. Definitely going to diminish your conversion if there's no phone number in your main menu, so put it in there. And the normal place, the most common place, I would suggest the best place to put your phone number is somewhere close to the top right hand corner. So logo in the top left, phone number in the top right, broadly speaking, is where that number will be. And again, if you're smart around this, you would have a tracking number in there. Now that would either be a number that is only used on your website, so anyone that rings that number, they got it from your website, so you can see definitively how many phone calls your website is bringing into the business. Tracking numbers, very simple concept if you're not familiar with them. With a tracking number, your phone system says exactly as it is now, but you buy a tracking number, it would typically have the same kind of area code that your business has. So we have our tracking numbers here, they're 0121, most of them, so it looks like the same, but we only use each phone number in a single place. So we use one on our website or one on our particular piece of marketing, for instance, whatever else. The phone numbers ring on our existing phone system, but we can go into the back end of our tracking number system anytime we want, 24/7, and we can see which numbers people are dialing, and therefore which bits of our marketing are working well. Tracking numbers are super cheap. They were genuinely, when they were introduced quite a number of years ago now, but they transformed the ability of marketers to track what's happening. And if you talk to Jeremy Strong and his team at Invoco, they have a stand in the expo today. Those are the guys to go to for certainly for tracking numbers, but also for any of your telephony needs. But having a website that you're spending money on and you don't spend the £1 a month on a tracking number is kind of certifiably insane behavior, to be honest, because you do need to measure and track everything if you're serious about improving your conversion. Because if you're only having a dabble and just playing for a bit of fun, then it doesn't matter. But if you're serious about your website helping your business to grow, about it being a proper marketing pillar that contributes to the expansion and growth of your business and your wealth, then you would definitely invest the £1 a month in a tracking number that you put on your website. Either way, as far as the audit is concerned, the phone number will be clearly visible in your main menu. And then also what we call the main CTA is a call to action. All right, so a call to action would be prominent in the top right hand corner of the page, and usually it will be right next to the phone number. Those are the two things that will be in the top right hand corner. So it might be about book now, or if they get a quote, find the mask for you, I think was the phrase that was used yesterday on that. So the main one will be on the top right hand part of the page. So a full house on those 4 ticks there would score you 10 points. If you've got any of those missing, then perhaps needs improvement. It means there is a logo visible, but it's not in the top left. The navigation has got some non-essential items. The phone number is visible, but it's not a tracking number. It's the same number as the rest of as they use everywhere else. And that your main call to action is visible, but it's not in the top right hand corner of the page. And by the way, as we said yesterday, that's not an and or, you can duplicate. That's why the call to action, it doesn't have to be, that's the duplication of the call to action. It's in the main menu as well as being elsewhere on the page. It's not an instead of, which is why it would sit in the need improvement. If you've got the call to action somewhere else, but it's not in the main menu, then you definitely need to get that fixed. And you'd score 0 points down here if your navigation is a bit of a mess, if it's cluttered or unclear. Now, of course, you won't think it is, because you built this website, you love this website, you feel great affection for your website. And someone sent me a little meme yesterday. I just remembered this. I should have put this in if I'd remembered about it. Someone said this little meme, it was a FaceTime call, and this girl was showing her grandma the baby that their next door neighbours had just had, And Pete and Michelle had this little baby, Grandma, on FaceTime. And the grandma says, God, what a fat, ugly baby. And, they're on the FaceTime call, Grandma. Sometimes, but it was a fat, ugly baby. Sometimes, from a website perspective, you need other people to point things out. Probably wasn't the best example. It just was very timely. But you need someone to tell you, listen, this navigation it's not clear and it's too cluttered and it needs sorting out. Because if that is the case, it will be affecting your conversion. If there's no call to action present in the menu, that's an issue. And if there's no phone number in that main menu, that's a big issue as well, and you would score 0 points. And really, if you've got any ticks in this left-hand column here, then you're going to be scoring 0 points. I mean, again, just to be clear, how do I score this if people have got ticks in all the boxes? You just have to, there's a bit of judgment required here, people. You just kind of form a view. Certainly, if you've got any ticks in the centre box or the left-hand box, any ticks at all in there, then you can't score 10. That's what I would say for sure. You then need to form where's it kind of sit. I mean, at the end of the day, you can score yourself 3 if you want, or 6 or 7. I don't mind. The point is just to direct you to a plan. Oh, we need to do something about this. It's not where it needs to be. Because when you tick all the excellent boxes, that's when you've got a site that is set up to give you the best possible chance to convert as many people as possible. So that was our main menu piece. Then let's look at the next piece then is personality. So again, if I turn on the excellent piece, where for the personality, the business owner's photo would be on the front page of the website. In truth, it should be on most pages, but definitely on the front page of the website. The video that's on there will capture the essence of the business's personality. You saw it yesterday with the Michael Aubrey partnership and with the Peaches Salon. Both those videos gave you a really good insight into what those businesses are really like. You know, they were authentic and they were real, and the personality of the business started to come through. Real photos of real people are featured throughout the site, tying across here with the images piece. And I put in the business has soul. And you know what I mean by that? We recognise it when we see it. So many businesses present themselves to the world on their website in a very soulless way. There is nothing there's nothing to get hold of. It's all just very what's the word? It's crafted around what they do. There's nothing about the people or the why they would do it. There's nothing that would maybe even make you smile. There's nothing that suggests that there's anything about this place that would make you want to kind of go there or be interested in it, especially given that your website is not about you, it's about your customer. So let's make yourself attractive to your customers by getting your soul out there. And there are plenty of examples. I think we do a pretty good job of that with EC. We've definitely got a bit of soul. It's not for everybody, understand that fully, but people that relate to, the way that we kind of see the world are attracted to it because we do kind of put it out there, and it's a mistake for you to not do the same. So quite a key element there. The need improvement column when it comes to personality, there are some real photos there, but there's some stock images as well. We'll get you a tick in this middle column. The kind of page is competent but corporate, so you're giving away the huge advantage of personality and ownership. You'd be missing if there's no business owner on that front page. You talk about we, and you kind of be looking, the website kind of makes you bigger than you actually are, and you're trying to appear kind of faceless and corporate, which is a really dumb thing to be when actually what your biggest advantage is your secret sauce is you, and it needs to come through on the site. If it doesn't, you're definitely getting ticked in this middle column or the left-hand column. And the fact that people by people has been forgotten by the person building this website. We've stripped the people out of it. We stripped the soul out of the business, and we'll get your ticks down here. Things that would take you in the 0 column on personality is there's no pictures or video of the business owner. That's a definite tick in the 0 column. There's only stock images used on the site is a definite tick in the 0 column. And here's one to think, this is a really good one, this. If you change the name and logo at the top of the site or the top of the page to one of your competitors, and the rest of the content would still be true and make sense, then you've got a big problem and you're going to score 0 here because there's no differentiation. You'll be seen as the same as everyone else, and you are throwing away the big advantage that you've got, which is you are you, and you do have personality and soul, and it needs to be coming out of your website. Sorry to interrupt myself, but if you enjoyed this video, it would really help us out if you liked it below and just click subscribe. Oh, and if you're a business owner and you want even more content like this, then you should become a member of Entrepreneur Circle. You can try it out completely for free just by clicking the link in the description, and you'll unlock instant access to a treasure trove of business growth resources. There's templates, there's tools, there's training, there's lots more. Just click the link in the description and I'll see you on the inside. Now, back to me. In a way that for too many sites it just doesn't do at the moment. The next piece, we are already here. This is going okay. Getting a few nods and thumbs up from Jess and Cameron. They're working hard on the chapter. They've been well looked after by Matt the butler. You've got plenty of buns there, guys. They're going to keep you going well into the morning. The next element on our hang on, what about the big guys? eBay, Amazon. They aren't personal, but we use them all the time. Yeah, they're okay, right? So thank you for that question. So the question says, what about all the big guys? Amazon, eBay, Google. They aren't personal, but we use them all the time. That's exactly my point. If you try and take them on at the game that they are playing, they will win. Because that's exactly the point. So you have to find the strengths, the bit where they can't play. They have no personality or soul in the way that you can have it, and that's why this is so important, because you can't beat them playing their game. You have to play your game. And if you try and play their game, you're going to get snuffed out. And you're pissing away a massive competitive advantage. Just humongous. It's such a big deal, is this. I'm having thick, as yesterday Nige said, keep the website functional like Google, but now we've been told to have more photos and images. Okay, right, all right, I need to go back to basics here. What I said yesterday was design, it's principle number one, design for function, not for aesthetics. So, in other words, worry a lot about what each page on your website is there to do, not what it looks like. But what it's there to do requires you to do this stuff really well. Now, and you have to look at this audit in its totality. I know that I've talked about images because they're an important element. I've never said that don't have images on your website. I mean, the examples that we showed yesterday, that really good example of that face mask site, which in 7 words answered the 4 critical questions, but it wouldn't have answered the 4 critical questions in 7 words without that beautiful image of that girl with the sleep mat. It was a really key element. Whereas, remember the retro glamping site yesterday, which just had the words trying to describe the different cabins for the 60s, the 70s and the 80s without using images? That's not functional. That's insane. So it's really important, and again I'm getting animated now because I was very clear at the start of this event that I was going to make you think, and I need you to engage your brain cells. You have to get deep, you have to be curious, not judgmental. Don't take, oh, Nigel said that without any thought or process, and therefore this all needs to be understood deeply. That's why the Ted Lasso quote is so important. I didn't put it in there as a little kind of interjection to entertainers. There was such a significant point about it. And part of that is that most people don't think enough. Most people are not curious enough. When you start to work it through, I promise you what we've got, everything that is in here is completely congruent with everything that we said yesterday. I promise you there is no contradiction anywhere in this event. And if as you're sitting through, you're thinking, oh, that doesn't make sense because I thought I understood that yesterday, recognize straight away, therefore, so I'm seeing some contradiction. There isn't any here. So let's get curious about how we fix it and join. Because if you can work out how you fix it, that's way better for you. If you can't, please do tell me and I will try and unpick it and help you get there, because that'll be my fault that I've not explained it well enough. But there are no contradictions in this event. Everything I said yesterday is completely congruent with everything that I'm saying today, and that will be the case throughout the day. And what I need you to pause, and rather than instinctively firing off a question, go, oh, I don't understand that, what is it? Try and think it through yourself, because that will definitely help you more to understand it if you can work it out. If you really can't, then please put the question up and I will go through it and I will answer it for you. But these are we're absolutely congruent here as we work through. Any chance of clarifying if slideshows and carousels for e-commerce are damaging and therefore worth getting rid of? Okay, so now what we're going to be careful of here, and again I'm going to go back to Ted Lasso here because this is a good question. So the question is, are carousels and slideshows on e-commerce sites, are they, so in other words, sites where people are buying product, are they worth having or not? So now the answer, you already know the answer to this. I've already gone through the answer to this. Not explicitly as we're going to do now, but you've had the bits to join up. So if Ted Lasso had been at this event, Ted would know the answer to this. Because Ted would know that the design principle number 3 is measure and track everything. And you know that design principle number 2 is that make changes in small ways. So if I was running an e-commerce website where I was wanting people to buy my product, then I will be running it. I say, right, okay, I've got this carousel up there now, I've got this slideshow up there now. I am going to track definitively, starting today or tomorrow, exactly how many of my visitors, what they do, where they go, and how many of them buy what I want to do. And then when I've had 1,000 visitors, through, might take me a few days, might take me a week, I'm going to change one thing, and I'm going to take that carousel off, or I'm going to take that slideshow off, and I'm going to present my images in a different way. I'm going to try and make it work. I'm not just doing it for the sake of it. It's not an academic exercise, but I'm going to try removing it and seeing if I can create an impact on my conversion rate. And I'm going to track and measure it, and then you'd know for sure. Broadly speaking, and this is, again, this comes with loads of caveats, but broadly speaking, carousels and slideshows harm conversion rather than help it. All right, but your site might be an exception, and therefore you should test it and track it on your site and look at the numbers, because effective marketing is creativity plus maths. So we do the numbers and it'll tell us the answer, and that's where we go to. What I can tell you is that where I've been involved in tests around this size, the carousels have gone and the slideshows have gone, because they have performed often significantly worse than the alternative that we came up with. But you need to do the test yourself. Someone says, I've had feedback that I'm on the home page too much, and that makes us seem, okay, this is from Chris Blunt. I've had feedback that I'm on the home page too much, and that makes us seem smaller. What are your thoughts? I.e., we have little photos of the rest of the team, but they are limited to the staff page and office video. Well, I think broadly speaking, the biggest problem businesses have is they're not there at all, Chris. And this is Chris Blunt at Broken Stones. And you know, at least you are there, you are fronting the business. Duncan Bannatyne writes very powerfully in his book, you know, every business Bannatyne's ever had, he's put his name on the door. Because it gives the business a personality, and it means I'm responsible for this thing. It's all about me, and there's no harm in doing that. As you start to build, Chris, and know where you're going, I would make a bigger deal of members of your team. You know, you see we do bits of that here at EC. You know, if you remember Entrepreneur Circle for any length of time, you don't just know Nige. I mean, I'm a fairly big presence, but you get to know Cameron and Joe and Jess and Matt the butler, you know, and so we start to give profile to, you know, with the website wizard, James Farmer, you know, so we start to give profile to members of our team because they're an important part of what we do. So that would be a good example, I think, of the little iterations, and start to build up the other people and the key players in your team, but don't remove your presence. You're an important part of what you do. And far more, the bigger problem for most people is that they're not there at all. That you've in some. What happens? Oh, my plan is to sell the business in 10 years' time, and therefore I don't want to put my name to it. Again, completely flawed thinking. Lots of businesses that are named after the owner have been sold. I mean, the best example I can is David Lloyd, the leisure clubs. It's been sold 4 times since he left, but it still carries his name. Doesn't stop you exiting or selling a business, but it makes it much easier to grow the business when the business has got a personality and a soul. There's a question coming in here. We have lots of photos of customers' dogs as we're a franchise company. Do we have to get consent from the customer to use the photo on our website? Well, okay, the technical thing there, again, it's fascinating how people find ways to sabotage themselves. Broadly speaking, if people have allowed you to take the photos, there'll be an expectation that you're going to use it. I would tend to use the picture, and if they don't want it to be used, then you'd apologise and take it off, would be the approach that I would go down from a practical perspective, because otherwise you tie yourself up in knots. I'd make it clear when you're taking the photos that I'm going to put them on the website. People typically, in my experience, the opposite is true, especially if you present them in the right way, and you're this is, this, because people are very proud of their dogs, and you might, again, I'd make sure you have captions, and so you mention the dog's name. So this is beautiful Miley, winner of our pup of the week or whatever. People love that sort of thing. So you're much more likely to get benefits from it than get problems. But again, this isn't interesting how the thought process, because straight away what's actually happened there is someone, I think, has bought into this notion, but then their little part of their lizard brain is trying to work out ways that they can not have to do it. Because the more real images, and when you've got pictures of dogs, by the way, you have to make them real. Make them real by giving the dogs names, telling the story in the captions. That will make a big difference too. So there's quite a lot we're kind of getting into here, and I'm very happy. I'll keep taking these questions as they are, as they're coming through. But the personality piece, very, very important. And we'll look at some sites a little bit later on and compare them on this. Call to action is the 6th element of our audit. And to be excellent here, you would have a consistent primary and secondary calls to action that are repeated at least 3 times on the homepage. And the call to action copy is clear and compelling. With our sites, if you look and see, it's very difficult to scroll and not have a call to action dominant on the screen. So that's how often they repeat. They repeat quite regularly, and always omnipresent is our main call to action in the main menu button. It would need improvement if there's at least 2 calls to action, one above and one below the fold. That would need improvement, because we could probably do it a little bit more and work it through. And again, I think a really good model here, and a site that's working very well and converting very well, is that Spotlight Video site. It's not a panacea, but it's a site that's very current, it's very simple, and it's working really well. That's the bit, because often you don't know how well sites are working. But I'm telling you, I'm sharing my numbers with you. That site converts really well. It does all the things that you would want it to do. And therefore it's a good little role model, a good little checkpoint for you to go to. And you'll see we have different calls to action as you go down that site. There's a download an info pack. There's a find out when your video will be ready. There's and there's of course a book your video now. There are the multiple calls to action that are there. There are nut trail that is working through. You get 0 points if there's only 1 call to action on the page, or the visitor is left wondering what to do next. If there's no content, then again, that's a big problem. Now again, you're never going to tick that yourself, but because you've got the curse of knowledge. But getting an independent person to come and start, I don't know what to do, will be really insightful and really helpful for you. So calls to action, very, very important from a website that's all about conversion, which is what we're about now. Next up then is what we call the body copy. So this is where the bulk of the site will be. And to score excellent on this, you want text, images and video that clearly expand on how the product or service works, who will benefit, what the visitor needs to do next. So the body copy is all about things from the customer's perspective. That's what that bullet point there means. Clear visual breaks between sections, so it makes it nice, and it's an easy, comfortable experience for for the visitor to absorb in there. The copy is all customer centric. We've put that in bold because they don't actually care about you at all. I know they're on your website, but they're only on your website to find out what you can do for them, because your website is not about you. It's about the customer. And this is an important measure here. And this is a little piece you want to do. Go through all the copy on your website and count the number of times that the word you or your is used. And then go through all the copy again and count the number of times that you use we or our. Or I, possibly, anything that's about you as the business. And what you want to be looking for is a ratio of 3 times as many you and yours as we or our. 3 to 1 in the favour of you and yours. Now, it's fairly rudimentary kind of measure is that, but it's very, very effective. And if you've got a ratio, often people find the ratios the other way around. They've got 3 times as many we do this, we do that, we do that, our this, our that. There are 3 times as many about them than there's about the customer. It's not possible to have more we and ours on your website than you and yours and protest that your site is about your customer. It's just not possible. Whereas actually when you have 3 times as many you and yours as you have we and ours, it forces you to write your site from the customer's perspective. So very important little check is that. It makes this one quite a hard one to get 10 points on, is the truth of it. Needs improvement if the text, images and video explain the features but they're not connected to the specific customer benefits. And you see this a lot. So people like, this is what we do. So we measure the carpet and we do but it's not about the customer's experience and the benefits that the customer gets. So a lot of it is feature led. We see that a lot, and it would need improvement where you've got more we's than you, or the things broadly, you're nowhere near the 3 to 1. You've got more we's than you, we and our, more of them than you've got you and yours. It needs improvement. And the urgent action required is where you've got body copy that is disjointed, the flow's not clear on the site. You see that a lot on people's sites actually. A lot of primitive homemade sites, very poor flow to how it goes through. And again here what you classically is you've got lots more we than you, then you're going to score 0 points on the body copy. Now again, this is not a test. It's not something that what this is about is making you consciously aware of the areas that are most likely to impact your conversion. Because you're going to go and do this audit and it's going to tell you where you need to pay some attention, where you should spend your time in the first instance to get your site back on track, where the big prize for you is in terms of impacting conversion there. So can I explain primary and secondary calls to action? Yeah, I can. So if I go to the Spotlight Videos page, I can't easily pull it up right now, but our primary call to action on the Spotlight video page is buy your video. That is really what we want them to do. That is our primary call to action. We want them to go to that site and book a video. So our primary call to action is book a video. But not everybody's ready to book a video, so we have 2 secondary calls to action on that site. One of them is download an info pack. And the info pack, by the way, is in very simple terms a PDF version of the website, because we have put all the information on the website, but we've crafted it into a little PDF, and one of our secondary calls to action is download the info pack. So that's a secondary call to action. There's another secondary one in there, which is find out how long it will take to get your video to you. And that's another secondary call to action. But our primary call to action is, and normally you would only have, it would be quite unusual to have 2 primary calls to action. I mentioned yesterday having one clear purpose, and our clear purpose of Spotlight Videos is to get people to buy the videos, but not everybody's ready to buy straight away, so we have to give them somewhere else to go. This is back to our nut trail. So we give them these 2 secondary calls to action to help to move them forward, and that's what the difference is there. I hope that makes sense. So that's the body copy there. On to trust. Just moving up the page a little bit here. So this is, we know being seen as being trustworthy is an important thing. So to be excellent on trustworthy, you'd want to have logos from existing customers featuring prominently, especially if you're B2B. key, very important. The logos of your customer matters quite a bit, even if the logos aren't particularly well known, but logos do give you a level of trust beyond just names. Customer stories are told with headlines and names, and that's again because you make it easier for people to consume what they're saying. So if there is a testimonial or a little case study, it needs to have a headline, and this is the one exception where the headline can and should summarize what the message is of the story. Normally the purpose of the headline is to intrigue, to get people to read it, but from case studies and testimonials on websites, what you actually want the headline to do is to summarize. So when people skim, that's what they do. I'll show you some examples this afternoon of people skimming. They're only going to see the headline, so the headline needs to summarize the case study or the particular review or testimonial. Ideally, to score excellent here, there will be a feed on the website from an independent review sites showing the latest reviews. There are lots of widgets, and again, I'll show you this afternoon how to get hold of these and what to do, but where you can get tools that will take your good reviews, and you get to set the criteria. It could be 4-star and above or 5-star and above, but it pulls reviews from Google or Trustpilot or TripAdvisor or whatever the key platforms are for you, and it pulls the latest reviews through and puts them in your site, and it presents them as reviews from those trusted platforms. It's a very, very good way to improve conversion, to demonstrate the kind of validity and scope of the proof that you've got. And if you've got any awards that you've either won or been a finalist in, well then again those logos will be on the page as well, because again that helps to make you trustworthy. We saw one yesterday with Maps Mortgages with their big award from the NatWest that they got. So the 4 elements there, you need to be ticking at least 3 out of 4 on there to score excellent. Needs improvement if there are logos and testimonials are visible but they're poorly presented. In other words, and this happens a lot when people just put the words in. So there's just the word, there's no headline. So you're making it really hard for the visitor to get the gist. You're expecting them to read all these things in detail, and that's not what people do. People skim. People skim because you skim when you go on people's sites. So important there that you are presenting things properly. The headline piece is important. And you'd score 0 for trust if you haven't got any testimonials on there. If you've got no links from independent review sites on there, you get a tick in there. If you've got no customer logos, you have a tick in there. If you've got no award logos, you got a tick in there. So this again, an easy one to score 0 on here. We'll talk this afternoon a bit about reviews and trust in a bit more detail. I probably should have put in this audit actually as a little guide. Broadly speaking, a business should have independent reviews on independent sites, and it should have 10 reviews as a minimum for every year that you've been in existence. If you think about it, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. It's less than 1 a month, so 10 reviews for every year that you've been in existence. So if you're a 4-year-old business, you'd expect to see at least 40 reviews on Google or Trustpilot or whatever the places would be. And if you've less than that, then what you're neglecting the trust element of your web presence, and that will be hurting your conversion. Now again, you can live with that if you're happy with your conversion, then there's nothing that needs to change. But if you want to convert more people that come to your website, then addressing the trust could be very, very helpful. My site is an e-commerce site, and there's not a lot of copy, and I'm not sure on how and if to add more. Help. Yeah, you should add more, even on an e-commerce site. I do recognise that because you want to help people are there. You're assuming that, don't assume that people understand everything. When I had a shirt business for a little while, it was called Botti Shirts, and it's a long story. I'm not going to go into it now. But we went to great lengths with our description of our shirts, and we went way over the top with them. We told stories about the origins of the shirts. They were completely made up, and they were very tongue in cheek. They clearly weren't real. We'd talk about, I don't know how the I don't know how I'm going to make this up, but this is obviously I've got a camper van shirt on today. So we talk about the history of camper vans and things that happen in camper vans. We met the whole thing, but we made it interesting, and we got a real following because of the descriptions that we used on our shirts. If you're not using words on your e-commerce website, then you're playing the same game as everybody else. So I'd be saying, well, how? So let's adopt Ted Lasso. Let's be curious, not judgmental. So what could I say that would make my products more attractive, more fascinating, more interesting to people? And then find ways to add that copy in. I'm not suggesting that it will be easy and straightforward, but if you're not using many words, then there's probably scope to improve your conversion by using more words, providing you get it right. We'd have to have a look at the exact thing, and we could use one of the marketing clinics on a Monday to have a look at that for you if that was a real issue. But come to the clinic with some suggestions. Don't just chuck it all on my shoulders. I will help you with it, but you doing the thinking first would be definitely be more helpful for you. I'm looking at niching down. Okay, I will take those questions, but they're not relevant for about now, Cam. Is that all right? You with me? So I'll do the niching questions when we have gone through the audit piece here, rather than going off on tangents. But I will take those audit questions, those niche questions, in a moment or two. A couple more elements to look at on the audit itself. The first is the footer. So, and there's a pretty good established way that footers should work now on sites in 2021. So your footer will be clearly laid out, and it would include what we call expanded navigation. So you would have links to pretty much every page on your site in your footer. It would definitely have your physical address, because that helps build trust and confidence, shows you're a real place. It would have links to contact us. It would have a link to your privacy policy. It would have a link to your terms of service or your terms and conditions. And it would have a resource directory, so somewhere to go for your kind of flagship content, for your key downloads and other content that people want. It would make it easy to get to, and that would be in your footer. And you tick a full set of those, then you're well worthy of an excellent score in there. The middle column needs improvement, would include most of the elements in the excellent column, but maybe the layout's a bit cluttered or unclear, or there's some missing, or you score 0 in the footer if either the footer is lacking some of those essential elements, or the footer's missing entirely, because again, that's a big red flag in terms of the competence of your site. And then the bottom one on here is tracking. So we've mentioned you have a unique tracking phone number used, and you would have Google Analytics installed properly on the site. You'd have to tick both of those to get an excellent. You'd need improvement if you've got analytics but no tracking number, and you'd score 0 if you've got no analytics and no tracking number across the piece here. And now at that point, when you've filled that in, you've now got some clarity as to where you should be paying attention in the short and or medium term.